Good evening.
Om Namah
Om
Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya. Good evening, Acharya.
Sir.
It's all good.
Yes.
So far, so good.
Okay.
Yes, and you?
We are all good. We are all good. In spite of the corona. Yeah. Okay. So briefly, we continue with Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka. And so far we had talked about, so to briefly recapitulate the last few classes, we had been talking about meditation, the two types of meditation. One is Antara meditation, inner meditation. One is Bahya meditation, external meditation. And we said that Antara and Bahya both were further subdivided into two categories, Savikalpaha and Nirvikalpaha. So you have Antara Savikalpaha and Antara Nirvikalpaha. You have Bahya Savikalpaha and you have Bahya Nirvikalpaha. So that's four categories. And each of those categories was further divided into Dṛśya Anuvidha and Shabda Anuvidha. So you had something like Antara Savikalpa Dṛśya Anuvidha Samadhi and Antara Savikalpa Shabda Anuvidha Samadhi. Okay. And the last few classes we had discussed about the Savikalpa Samadhi, where we said that the Antara Savikalpa Samadhi, and we had discussed the Antara Savikalpa Dṛśya Samadhi, where the Drishyam, the object, was said to be the mind. And we had also discussed Antara Savikalpa Shabda Samadhi, where the objects were said to be the words, the Vedantic words. So now we'll continue with that. We have discussed basically two types of Samadhi. Now we have to discuss the rest of them. So we'll continue. So we look at verse number 26 and we chant. Svanubhutirasaveshad
Svanubhutirasaveshad
Dṛśya Shabdhavupekshatu
Dṛśya Shabdhavupekshatu
Nirvikalpa Samadhisyat
Nirvikalpa Samadhisyat
Nirvikalpa Samadhisyat
Nirvikalpa Samadhisyat
Nivatasthita Deepavat
Nivatasthita Deepavat.
Okay, so I'm just muting all of you and we'll discuss. So, do you remember who was the author of this Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka? Long ago we talked about it. Who was the author? Anybody?
Ramana Maharishi.
No, not Ramana Maharishi. Nobody remembers. Okay, it was somebody called Vidyaranya. Okay, it's a very famous Sanskrit commentator, Vidyaranya. A very famous Acharya. So remember that name, Vidyaranya. Whenever you're looking at the scriptures, you will come across that name quite frequently. Now, in the first two stages of the Samadhi, which is Antara Savikalpa Samadhi, the Dṛśya variety and the Shabda variety, what do? I invoke the awareness, the witness awareness in the Samadhi. And therefore, since I'm invoking, my willpower is being used, and therefore deliberate effort on my part is present. Okay. Now, this ahankara, what is the definition of ahankara? What is the definition of ahankara? Don't say ego. Yes, Natrajan.
Yeah, if you go back to the Tattva Bodha, there is one definition. Now,
Yeah.
that definition, the Ahankara is one part of the four Antakarana.
Yes.
The
Okay.
other way of looking at Ahamkara is you are looking at your RC itself.
Correct.
These are two definitions, but in one case, Tattvabodha or the Antakarana is one part of the RC. Here it is the whole of the RC.
Yeah. So this is the full RC. Okay. Which RC means what? RM plus OC. RM means what? Three bodies. Sthola, Sukshma and Karana. Okay. Now when I say I am meditating, this I consists of two parts. One is the Atma and one is the Anatma. The Anatma here is not just RM. I'm using all Tattvabodha terms. If anybody doesn't understand, you have to ask. Okay, I'm presuming that all of you have gone through Tattvabodha. Therefore, the Ahankara is not just the RM. It is RM plus OC, which means it is RC. So this is what we call the lower I. And whenever I use in the Vyavaharika context, in the transactional context, when we say I, it is always RC. It is never OC. Because OC is not capable of any transactions. And all the transacting consciousness is basically reflected consciousness only. It cannot be the original consciousness. And therefore, when I say I invoke the witness awareness, when I say my willpower is being used and I am using deliberate effort, I am saying that I, the Ahankara, am active. I, the meditator, is I, the Ahankara. Now, if I am active, I am the subject. And therefore, whenever I am the subject, there is always a duality. There's always Dvaitam, how in the form of a division between the subject and the object. It is the subject who works upon the object. So subject-object division is always present. Now, here the subject is I, the meditator, and the object is Sakshi Chaitanyam. Okay. What is the difference between the meditator and the object? The meditator is RC, the object is OC. So there is a subject-object division. Okay, now what happens? I take a thought. The Ahankara is meditating. So I, the Ahankara, I, the meditator, I take a thought and I keep on repeating mentally, keep on focusing on the thought. What happens? The mind falls into some sort of a groove. An automatic repetition begins. Now, initially, when I am doing, let us say, Om Namah Shivaya or whatever the mantra that I am repeating, there is a deliberate effort present, which is why I said in the first two types of meditation, which is the Antara Savikalpa meditation, which consists of Drishya and Shabda Anuvida. In both those types of meditation, I am using deliberate effort, and therefore I, the Ahankara, am active. The willpower is operational, because after every Om Namah Shivaya, I have to repeat the next Om Namah Shivaya, and therefore the willpower is active. Now, once this becomes with constant repetition, it becomes a sort of a automatic repetition. The mind falls into a groove and keeps on repeating even when the Ahankara has mentally dropped the activity. The Ahankara is no longer using the willpower. This is a very important point. This is the movement from Savikalpa Samadhi into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Why is it Savikalpa Samadhi? Sa plus Vikalpa. Vikalpa is the division, the difference. What is the difference? In the form of subject and object. And so when this mind keeps on repeating and repeating and repeating, you will find that even when you are not deliberately using the will anymore, that thought is present in your mind. Okay. This capacity of the mind to repeat a thought So the mind has the capacity not only to repeat the thought or to chant the mantra, so to say, when I'm using my willpower. That is, deliberate effort is there. But with sufficient amount of repetition, with sufficient parayanam, what happens is the mind begins to repeat it automatically. Even when I drop the willpower, drop the activity of the will, the mind continues to repeat that thought without any deliberate effort on my behalf, without any involvement of my willpower. And this activity, this thought, the thought involving no deliberate effort, this is called Sukshma Akhanda Akara Vritti. Sukshma, Akhanda is what? Non-divisible. Akara is form, Vritti is thought, Sukshma is subtle. So Sukshma Akhanda Akara Vritti, subtle, non-divisible form of the thought. Right? Why does this happen? Because when my mind is consciously active means I have willpower, I have deliberate effort. It sort of veils subconscious activity. The subconscious mind cannot be active as long as the conscious mind is active. And that is why I said that in the last class or so, that sometimes when you're in meditation, you will find that you have become focused. And there is no deliberate attempt of your mind to continue with the mantra which you are doing, but the mantra continues to move. And that movement of the mantra in your mind without an effort on your part, that is this Sukshma Akara Vritti. Remember, the subconscious activity of your mind will surface, but when the conscious activity of the mind stops. And therefore, this mantra which we do, the constant repetition of the mantra is an effort to drive that mantra into my subconscious, so that that mantra continues to be repeated in my mind, even when consciously I am not focusing on that. Remember, it doesn't mean that consciously I'm doing something else, because if you're doing something else, there is conscious activity on the part of your mind. But this will happen in meditation when your mind has quietened down because of the inactivity of the body and the repetition of the mantra. The focus of the mind has happened. When the mind is completely focused on one thought, the subconscious activity surfaces, because this one thought focus is almost as if your mind has stopped conscious activity. So, at this time when the mind has stopped conscious activity, where is the ahankara? The ahankara, the I, it has become sort of dormant. So when the ahankara is not prominent, this subtle thought will continue. When vritti continues in subconscious mind, without the ahankara being present or active, that is the time when the triputi, the subject-object division, is not prominent. Exactly like it is in Sushupti Avastha. Remember, in Nidra Avastha, that is Sushupti Avastha, also there is a thought. What is that thought? We generally think that Sushupti Avastha is a thoughtless state. But Vedanta tells you that is not true. There is a vritti, there is a thought in Sushupti Avastha, the dreamless state of yours, there is still a thought. What is that thought? I am not experiencing anything. But your ahankara at that point of time has sort of become dormant. Hence, the subject-object division is not there, and therefore you are not aware of that thought. And when you wake up, ahankara again comes back into manifestation. That dormant thought now becomes a known thought, and therefore you say, that is a good sleep. I did not experience anything. In exactly the same manner, in this Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there is a vritti, but the triputi, the subject-object division is not there. And the difference is that in Sushupti, the vritti is what? I don't know. Ajnana vritti. I don't know. I am not experiencing anything. That's a vritti of ignorance, that I don't know anything. I am not experiencing anything. But in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the thought is the vritti which you have chosen, the jnana vritti, which is normally the focus on the consciousness itself. And hence, because of this, he says, Swa Anubhuti Rasa Aveshat. So rasa is interest or taste. Aveshaha is possession. So he says, Swa Anubhuti Rasa Aveshat. When rasa aveshat, when the taste takes possession of the mind, what taste? Swa Anubhuti taste. The taste for self-awareness. So when this taste, Swa Anubhuti Rasa, has to be understood as the taste for the interest in being self-aware. When that avesha, when that takes possession of your mind, in short, when the mind gets the momentum for the continuation of the Vedantic thought, which is happening when the mind is so focused that the ahankara is no longer active. The ahankara has become dormant. Your subject-object division has as if been destroyed. That's why we say in Samadhi, in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, mind you, the Triputi has been destroyed. The triad has been destroyed. What is the three pieces? The meditator, the process of meditation, and the object of meditation. This is the triad, the Triputi. As long as we are aware of Triputi, it is Savikalpa Samadhi. Because this is the Vikalpa, the three pieces: meditator, Dhyatru, Dhyanam, and Dheyam. Meditator, meditation, and the object of meditation. As long as we are aware of this, Triputi is there. It is Savikalpa Samadhi. When with constant practice, the ahankara begins to subside because of the focus of the mind, because the ability acquired to focus to the exclusion of everything else. Then this mind continues to repeat that thought without the need for support. And therefore he says, Dṛg-Dṛśya Shabdau Upekshaya. Upekshaya means having renounced, having no need for what? Dṛśya, objects, Shabda, the words. So the mind does not require the assistance of either Drishyam or Shabdaha, but either thoughts or words. Assistant for what? As a support for this self-awareness. So the mind continues without Triputi, without the subject-object division. This condition is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That's why he says, Nirvikalpa Samadhi Syat. Vikalpa means division in the form of what? Pramata, Pramanam, Prameyam, Dhyatru, Dhyanam, Dheyam. This is a divisionless state of mind similar to Sushupti. What is the common part with Sushupti? I am not aware that there is a thought in my mind. I am not aware that the mind is entertaining a thought. But the mind entertains a thought at both the times, in Sushupti Avastha as well as in Nirvikalpa Samadhi Avastha, which is why very often whenever the scripture talks about the taste of being in Samadhi, it takes the example of Sushupti. Now, because the ahankara is not there, is not present, not manifest, this thought flow which we have of the thought is undistracted. So it's compared to a flame kept in an enclosure. So that is why Nivatam. Vatam is a wind. As those who are familiar with Ayurvedic terms know, Vatam is wind. So Nivatam means without the wind. wind, and therefore the thought flow is compared to a flame kept in a place without any wind. Such a flame does not flicker, and therefore what is the state of the mind? The mind is free of distractions. The thought flows in a steady flow. And hence he says, Nivata Sthita Deepavat. This is like Deepavat, like the flame of a deepam, of a lamp, which is kept in an enclosure, which keeps it free of the wind. The flame does not flicker, it is absolutely steady. And that thought is being compared to that kind of flame. Steady flame. The flow of the thought is not distracted, just like the flame does not flicker because of the wind. Okay. Now, the question is, there is no self-awareness. Why? Because ahankara has been temporarily dismantled. It is in a dormant state. And if it is in a dormant state, then I am not aware of what is happening. Okay. This has to be understood very clearly, because a lot of people think that in that samadhi state, it's a heightened state of awareness. It is not. There is no self-awareness at all. It is as if you are in sushupti avastha. But the nature of the thought is different. In sushupti avastha, the thought is ajnanam thought. In nirvikalpa samadhi, the thought is the jnanam thought. It is the thought on consciousness principle itself. How then will I know that this aham brahma asmi vritti was there? Okay. And most people who study Yoga Shastram, they talk about samadhi as a state without thought, thoughtless state. So how then in a thoughtless state do they ask? You ask any person who is into Yoga Shastra, from the dualistic point of view, of course. Yoga Shastra can also be interpreted from a non-dualistic point. That's anyway a side point. Okay. So most people who are studied Yoga Shastra will ask you the question, how will you know that you had this aham brahmasmi thought when you were in samadhi? Because it's a thoughtless state. What is the answer? Vedanta says that the state is not thoughtless at all. And even if it is possible to have a thoughtless samadhi, that thoughtless samadhi has no value because it does not improve you. And therefore, if at all you have to refer to a thoughtless state of samadhi, Vedanta will call it andha samadhi, blind samadhi. Vedanta says the mind has always got a vritti, which is why we say that even in sushupti avastha, the ajnana vritti, the ignorance thought, I do not know, I do not experience, that ignorance thought is always there, which is the only reason I am able to recollect the experience of non-experience. When your mind comes back into functional state, when your ahankara is again manifest, we say, oh, that was a wonderful sleep. I had no dream at all. So a dream is experience, and therefore you are able to recollect the experience of no dream, which is an experience. And that's why I'm saying you are able to recollect the experience of non-experience. This recollection is the proof of the presence of the ajnana vritti in sushupti avastha. Similarly, when one comes out of nirvikalpa samadhi, there will be the recollection of aham brahmasmi vritti in that samadhi, which is the proof of the fact that he was in nirvikalpa samadhi and not in sushupti avastha. He will not say, this yogi who comes out of nirvikalpa samadhi will not say that I had no experience. If he says that, then he was in sushupti, not in samadhi. In samadhi, when you come out, he'll recollect what? Aham brahmasmi vritti. Therefore, in nirvikalpa samadhi, thoughts are in subtle form. It is not a thoughtless state at all. So with this, we'll stop here and we can go forward to any questions if you want. These are all very, clearly Vedantic interpretations of what you would call samadhi. We don't use the term samadhi, but what you would call samadhi this is the interpretation. Okay. No questions?
Raviji Om,
Yes, Om.
how does one come out of this state? Like when the body needs something, or is it possible to perform some actions but continue preserving this state?
No. The mind is in samadhi, right? The mind is, your ahankara is sort of dormant. And that means what? There is no body identification. Without body identification, how can you do anything at all? So you come out of it when you probably feel hungry, right? Or thirsty. So you need to take a drink of water so you come out of it. It can be anything, external disturbance. It can be hands and legs paining because of too long sitting, but you will come out of it. The point being made is that there is a differentiation in the two interpretations. Yoga Shastra will tell you that this is a thoughtless state. Vedanta will tell you that if it is a thoughtless state, it has no value at all. How can it change you at all? The aham brahmasmi vritti has to be there.
The thoughtless state, they mean something like in Buddhism, jada samadhi.
Andha samadhi, yeah, jada samadhi. Inertness is there. Inertness is, you might have seen, if you want to be in a thoughtless state, you might as well be sleeping in sushupti avastha, right? Dreamless state. It's much more refreshing. So this is the difference in interpretation between Vedanta and Samadhi. And this is a very
how...
Sorry, tell me.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, you tell.
No, I just wanted to know how this Nirvikalp is further subdivided into Drishya, Anuvid, and word Anuvid.
Depending on the thought which you have entertained.
Okay.
At the time. If it was a Drishya thought, then it is Drishya, Nirvikalpa. If it is a Shabda, it's a... So the Shabda is what we normally recommend. Because Shabda is the Vedantic Shabda, which is Aham Brahmasmi. That is what you should be entertaining. Or Aham Nitya Satya Shuddha. That is a thought we should be entertaining. So any Vedantic thought, any Nididhyasanam thought is what you should be doing for the purpose of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So that thought, the advantage it is so clearly focused that it's driven home into your subconscious.
Okay.
Ravij, you gave recently example when we are watching a movie and we are so into it that we forget about ourselves. Is it somehow similar?
No, but when you're in a movie, the ahankara is active, right? Because you know that you're watching a movie. Unless you have been so deeply, engrossed in the movie that you forget that itself. But even then, the fact that you're registering the movie means that your mind is active. So that's Savikalpa only.
I see. Thank you.
Okay.
Om sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, but if I remember Raja Yoga Patanjali Sutra, it says that Nirvikalpa Samadhi is basically there is no thought, but then after the end of the meditation, there is an experience of Satchit Ananda.
So that's where we differ.
Yeah.
Because we say that, why do you have to experience Brahman? You don't have to do anything to experience Brahman, because every experience is what? Brahman only. When I'm talking, when I'm sleeping, when I'm meditating, Everything that I do, is it possible without Brahman? No.
No, no.
And therefore, in every act of yours, Brahman is being experienced. You do not have to look separately for Brahman experience. So that's the major difference between Dvaita and Advaita. Dvaita will talk about experience. Advaita will say, where is the question of experience? When the experience itself is Brahman. That's why we talk of understanding. You don't have to have Brahman experience. You are Brahman. Every movement of yours is Brahman.
Yeah. But sir, when you say there's a thought, that time also it's Dvaita, right?
It is Brahman. No, but the experience of Brahman in any case, right? Because you, the experience that are there, the you means RC. RC means OC is there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So that's way. So the whole idea is to keep on repeating so many times that sooner or later this is driven home into our subconscious. And so whenever we talk about this, we are constantly aware that Brahman doesn't go away. Brahman is always there. All right. So with this, we'll stop. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.